Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jessica if you are new here, and I am an indie author, a boy mom, and a typical Sagittarius. Today I have something a little different for you guys. I thought it would be fun to do kind of a writerly Q&A so that you all can get to know more about me as a writer. I actually found a list of questions on Twitter. And instead of doing it on Twitter, I thought it would be fun to do it for you all on YouTube. Some of these I have kind of already touched upon in previous videos, so I'm not going to belabor something that I have already made a video on. So if you want to check those out, you can go check out the other videos on my channel. Otherwise, let's just dive right in. Question number 1 is, do you prefer writing with a pen and paper or an online document? So I actually like both. When I'm trying to fast draft, I definitely do that in a document because I type faster than I can write longhand, and if I write longhand for too long, my hand starts to hurt, which causes problems. So when I'm trying to go fast, I do like to use the computer, but I do like to do plotting longhand. And if I get stuck, I'll write myself into a scene longhand, because there is just something about pen and paper. Like, I like that connection, and I like the feeling of writing on paper. That just kind of gets me back into the story and makes me feel more connected with the writing. Question 2, how long have you been writing? So as long as I can remember, honestly. I've always kind of considered myself a writer. English has always been my favorite subject in school. It's always been something I have excelled at. I always got really high scores on my portfolios in school, if you remember and know what those are. I wrote and illustrated a story way back in the 4th grade. I did the illustrations for it, which I thankfully don't do anymore. But yeah, and I went to college for creative writing. So I've, been writing, for as long as I can remember, and that's always been a part of, what I've considered my identity as. Have you taken any writing classes? So yes. So like I said, I did do my undergraduate in creative writing, so obviously I took classes there. I also did a graduate degree in writing, so took classes there. And then I have also, every once in a while I will take a class or take a one-off workshop or something with a local organization here. Trying to make writer friends. And I think it's always good to take classes and branch out, because writing, like all kinds of skills, is something that can always keep growing and you can always keep learning. So I definitely think there's a benefit in taking writing classes. Do you have an AO3, fanfic.net, Wattpad, etc.? So no, there is nowhere online where I post serialized versions of my work. You can find some short work of mine, a couple short stories and some poetry for free online. If you go to my website, I have links to that if you'd like to read it. I do have an idea to maybe do serialized work in my newsletter. Not anytime soon, but if you are interested in that, definitely sign up, because that might be something that I do in the future. But otherwise, no, I don't do any kind of serials online. what's your favorite genre to write? Romance, if you hadn't already figured that out. So romance with a capital R, and then I write in multiple subgenres. So I will write contemporary romance, fantasy romance, science fiction romance. I think that's about it. I would love to write like a historical romance, but I don't know if I'm ready to tackle that yet. Because historical romance is one of my favorite genres to read. But yeah, romance with a capital R, and just anything that kind of falls under that umbrella, you know, I am interested in. What's your least favorite genre to write? This is kind of an interesting question, because I guess it would just be stuff that I don't write. Like, I have never tried to write horror or a mystery or a thriller. I just don't think I would be very good in those genres. So, I mean, I can't really say they're my least, because I've never written them. Well, I take that back. I did write a ghost story in college, but I don't think it was very good. If I remember correctly, I don't think it was very good. So yeah, so horror, mystery, thriller are probably not genres I will ever tackle personally, even though I do enjoy those genres to watch. I don't really enjoy, I'm not a really big mystery thriller reader. I will read one every once in a while, but I prefer to actually watch those instead of reading them. All right. Do you often read other books as reference? So yes, I do think writers learn and can improve their craft by reading other writers. I think that's important for us to do, so that we can see what's out there in our genres, you know, what's being written, how other authors have tackled things, you know, all that kind of good stuff. So I typically kind of like to read in, like, I obviously read in my genres, but, you know, when I'm working on my young adult stuff, I like to kind of immerse myself in young adult fiction. Just because it helps me, you know, with the headspace. And of course, it's always good to know, you know, what other people are doing. And when I'm working on my contemporary romance stuff, I like to immerse myself in contemporary romances, just so, you know, I can kind of be in that space. You know, and it helps me, you know, to feel inspired to read really, you know, really good books by other authors, because, you know, that helps me, you know, with motivation on getting my own stuff written. Do you write professionally or just for fun? So since I am a published author, you can say I write professionally. How much time do you spend writing on an average day? Currently, I would say I do not have an average writing day. Sometimes I get no writing done at all. Other times I'm able to get a lot of writing done. July was a really bad writing month for me, just because there was a lot of other stuff going on that was seeping my energy away from writing. And I try not to beat myself up too much about that and hold myself to a really strict writing routine, because then I just get disappointed, and then I just get frustrated when that routine is disturbed. So there is no average day for me, unfortunately. Are you confident about your writing? I would say yes. I know, you know, that nobody's perfect, and I've discussed, you know, first drafts being messy and all that kind of stuff. But I am confident that I am a pretty strong writer, and that I know there's always, you know, things can always be improved, but I am confident that I know how to tell a good story, and that I can create characters that readers engage with. And I also think I'm, you know, not to toot my own horn, I also think my writing is naturally kind of humorous, so I think humor is a genre that is very hard to write. and it's very easy for it to go wrong, but I think that's actually something that comes kind of naturally to me. So even when my work is serious, there are still, aspects of, humor, and it's, still has some lightness, and some funny bits that I hope resonate with readers. How many writing related accounts do you follow? So this question was probably more related to this being on Twitter, but I don't have a number because I follow a whole lot of writing related accounts. I follow big name authors. I follow other indie authors who, in my genre, who are doing what I want to do, all that kind of good stuff. Is it okay for people to ask about your process? Yes, I did a, whole video just recently talking about my process. And definitely if you have any other questions about it, feel free to drop them in the comments. I am an open book and willing to share, anything that I do. Do you keep your writing personal, or do you write things for others? This is kind of an interesting question because, obviously I do write things for an audience, because I'm putting my work out there, but everything I write is something that I personally would want to read. I have spent hours reading my own work because I enjoy it. Rereading my stuff is, fun and enjoyable for me. So I guess you could say it's a little bit of both. I do write with the intent to publish and know that other people will be reading this, but I am not writing anything that I personally would not want to read. So a little bit of both. Do you ever collaborate with others? So far, no, but I honestly would love to give co-writing a try. I think that would be a really awesome experience and really fun. And we can kind of, play off each other's strengths and weaknesses. So that is something I would kind of want to keep an eye out for the future, to do a co-writing project with someone. I would be, totally down for that. And I think I'm very pink today, so I'm very sorry about the lighting in this video. How long does an average piece take you to complete? So it varies. If you watched my process video, it can take a decade or it could take months. I am hoping to do an average of months going forward. So hopefully it never, takes me years and years and years again. Do you write more today than you did in the past, or do you write less? I would say definitely more. Especially since, I kind of have a publishing schedule and all that kind of good stuff. Even though I'm not in classes or doing work for classes, I would say I write more for myself and for, obviously for my publishing schedule, and to, kind of keep that up and make those deadlines and stuff like that. I am writing more than previously. Okay. Do you think you're justified in giving other people writing advice? Well, since I am on the internet and on YouTube giving people writing advice, I'm going to say the answer to that is yes. But I would never, I feel like my advice is springing from my own experiences and my own trial and error. And so it's more that knowledge that I'm trying to, pass on to others, and, my mistakes and all that kind of stuff, so that other people can take, what they like, leave what they don't like, and everything, all the advice that I'm giving is based on my own experiences and things that I've done. I would never dole out advice that I would also not, implement in my own life or haven't implemented in my own life. What are you currently trying to improve on? So I would say, consistency. So consistency in my writing routine. draft process time, obviously, as I've said before. And then my outlining and plotting, getting that more structured and more cohesive from the beginning. So those are kind of the 3 areas that I'm always kind of tinkering with, changing my process, trying new things with, to try to improve. What is the most difficult thing for you to write? I am going to say middles. And I think middles are one of those things you will hear are difficult for a lot of people. You might have heard the phrase the saggy middle. It's where the story, so in the beginning, you're like really excited and really pumped and everything's kind of new. And so I feel like beginnings are really easy and really fun to write because they're new and you have all these ideas and you're just meeting the characters and, you know, all that kind of good stuff. And then you kind of, so that's high, and then it kind of falls off when you're slogging through the middle and it feels like it's never going to end. So I'm going to say, and that's kind of where I struggled with Sometimes Love Ain't Enough, and where I felt like it kind of took me longer because I was trying to figure out that middle piece. So I'm going to say middles are where I struggle. Not lasting. I have several more. What is the easiest thing for you to write? I guess I'm going to go ahead and say the beginnings for all the reasons I just said, because they're new and fun and shiny, and I think it's really easy to begin a story. I would also say I am pretty strong at dialogue and making that realistic between characters. That is something that I have always gotten really good feedback about from readers and beta readers and editors and peers and that kind of stuff. So I believe I'm pretty strong there. And it seems to come pretty easy for me, writing dialogue between characters. Do you like challenging yourself? I'm going to say yes, I do, to a certain extent. I do like to push the envelope a little bit on my skills and, you know, how fast I can write and, you know, how many words I can write in a day and stuff like that, because I think pushing yourself to, you know, achieve more and write more, you know, helps you grow and helps you hone your skills. So yeah, I do like a little challenge every now and again. Do you write more fan fiction or more original pieces? So I have actually never written fan fiction before. All my stuff has been original. And, you know, my own characters and worlds and stuff like that. I'm not saying that I would never write fan fiction, but I just don't, you know, I like creating my own characters, and I don't really know if I would know where to even start to write fan fiction, honestly. But I would like to write in, you know, someone else's intellectual property, which is kind of like fan fiction. It's like the authorized version of fan fiction when you get to like write, you know, like a Wonder Woman story or a Spider-Man story or something like that. So I think that would be something that I would be interested in doing one day, to write somebody else's IP. I don't really know what I would like to write. I have to think about that. But I think it would be cool to eventually do. Do you feel more jealous or inspired reading other people's work? I would say it's a little bit of both. Sometimes I do feel jelly when I read something that's really, really good and it's like, oh, you know, they got to this idea first, or, you know, that's so amazing, you know, why can't I write, you know, that really well, or, you know, I really, really want to write this really well and stuff like that. But for the most part, it does make me feel inspired. Reading is one of the ways that I kind of refill my creative well. So when I'm feeling really stuck and really uninspired, reading something that I really enjoy does inspire me to, you know, kind of bring that to my own pieces. So I would say it's a little bit of both. The only thing, the worst feeling ever, I think, as a writer is when you read something and then you find out they've used an element or a plot point or a characteristic or something that you have also used in your work, but your work is not published yet and their work got to it first. So I think that's really hard to encounter as a writer, especially when you're like, you know, I'm just reading this and this is already established in my work. Like how, you know, how the heck did that happen? How did they pluck this idea from my head? But when that happens, I usually just, you know, shake it off, move on, because their execution of the story is different and going to be different than my execution of the story. You know, I had a teacher in college who said there were really only two plots in all of storytelling. So I think, kind of going off on a little tangent here, I think worrying about originality will stifle you as a writer, because most everything has already been done before, but it's just that your execution and your experiences and the way you write is going to be different than the way somebody else writes. And I'm definitely not saying like go steal somebody's plot or anything like that, but when you encounter, like, you know, My Girls of Fall novel, they play soccer, and there are a lot of, you know, I mean, not a lot, like soccer doesn't pop up too often in young adult literature. But there are other young adult books where the main characters play soccer. You know, that's not something that I'm going to fret over because, you know, my execution is going to be different than, you know, somebody else's execution. And that's not, you can't say, you know, my book is then copying somebody else's book because the characters play soccer. Like, that's just not something, that's just not something you can do. Or we would literally have there would be no other vampire books published. If, you know, if those things were off limits to you as an author. So that was my mini tangent. So back to our questions. Do you like to write in silence or with music? I actually like to write with music. I create a playlist for every major project I'm working on, so that when I'm working on that project or I'm plotting that project or thinking about that project, I will put that playlist on. And they usually are like really, really big. So it's usually like 8 or 9 hours of music, you know, hundreds and hundreds of songs. It's something I kind of do in the planning phase, is to kind of start putting those playlists together, and then I will keep adding to them as I find songs and stuff like that. Just because I think it helps get you in the mood and get you in the headspace to work on that when you're kind of always listening to, it's kind of like Pavlov's dog. When you're always listening to the same thing, you've kind of trained your brain into a response. And so it's like, when we're listening to this music on this playlist, we are working on this book. So I think it helps there. And then, you know, I listen to them so often that the songs become background noise for me, because I know them, I know all the lyrics, so they do fade out, so the lyrics are not distracting to me anymore. All right, what word processing programs / websites do you use to write? So I use Microsoft Word, I use Google Docs, and then I use the National Novel Writing Month website to keep track of word counts during NaNo and at other times. But then I also keep track of my daily / monthly word count in Planner. So that is something that I handwrite and keep track of as well. Do you make in-depth plans outlines, or do you just jump right in? So like I said in my previous video on my process, I am a reformed pantser. So I will be, making plans and outlines for all my work going forward. I didn't used to though. How do you usually come up with ideas? Oh, so this could probably be a whole video on its own. And I'm sure if you search in YouTube for like, how do you come up with ideas for books, you will find other videos by other authors that talk about this. I think it varies. It varies by project, honestly. And it's been so long. This was really hard to answer. Because it varies, and I have so many ideas for books already that I haven't really spent a bunch of time coming up with a bunch of new ideas, because I have a bunch of ideas that I want to get around to writing. So where does inspiration come from? I mean, I pull quite a bit from my own experiences. So my main character in Sometimes Love Ain't Enough is a fat character, and obviously her experiences drawing from my own experience, as a fat woman in a slender preferred world. I really wanted to write that because that is not representation, or it's not good representation that you see a lot. So I really wanted to, contribute to the good representation for that. So that's kind of what I set out to do, and then it kind of just fell in from there. Once I, realized who my main character was. So for The Girls of Fall, I think it started with the first line of the book, and I just built it from there. And it is actually very different from, because I think I mentioned it used to be just a short story. So the finished novel is very, very different from that original short story. They're almost two separate ideas. But it just kind of grew out of the very first line. And then I just pull, like, I have an idea for a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And I really just went, I was like, I want to write a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And then I guess that was just the idea. It's like, I want to write this. And then I was like, well, what can, what do I want to do differently? What do I want to do the same, to stay true to, the original story? What am I going to bring to this that is different? And so then I just, bounced off of that. And then I decided that it was going to be set in space. So I have Beauty and the Beast in space. And I'm not even going to say that's really original, because I think there are other, I think there are several, or a whole host of science fiction romance novels that could be called Beauty and the Beast retellings, and they're obviously set in space. So, I mean, that's just, I am totally rambling, but this question's hard. Yeah, I think if I had to sum it down, my ideas usually come, I either come up with my character first, and then the ideas grow out of who this character is and what their challenges and internal conflict is. Or I might think of a line and then I need to develop a story around the line. Or, I think of a concept and I want to develop a story, or, around the concept. So I think that's probably how most of mine boil down into when we're talking about ideas. Okay. Okay. Last question. What inspires you not just to write, but to become a better writer? Ooh, hitting me with the hard ones today. I would say, I mean, I think if you write consistently and often enough and you work on your craft, you're going to kind of naturally become a better writer over the years. Like, I can say 100% sure that I am a better writer today than I was 10 years ago, or even, 2 or 3 years ago. I would say I have grown exponentially. And I mean, it's mostly for myself and my stories. Like, I want to be able to tell the stories I want to tell, and I want to be able to do that well. But also because, I am writing for an audience and I am writing for public consumption. I definitely, readers are another reason why, I always want to be a better writer because I always want my readers to have the best experience possible. And make sure, I'm growing for them and delivering, the best story that I possibly can. So yeah, I would say my readers and my audience, inspire me to become a better writer. Because I definitely don't want you guys to be disappointed in, anything that I put out. All right, so that is the end of my questions. I hope you enjoyed that, and if you do have any other questions, or if you would like me to expand on anything, definitely drop a comment below and let me know. And also, please like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, so that I can keep making content for you guys. Thanks. See you next time.